Section 4-5 starts on page 178. And what we are talking about here is reconciling your bank statement. Now, what a reconciling your bank statement does, or is it goes through and you check off which ones have been accounted for. Okay? There are times when you've got a bank statement at the end of the month and maybe a check has not gone through yet or a deposit hasn't been entered yet when you get that. On your registers, for those of you who have a checking account, on your check registers there's a column that has a little check mark. Did you ever see those when we were doing the check registers a couple days ago? It had a column for a check mark. That check mark was there for you to check off that it has been received by the bank when you get your statement. That's what it's for. When you receive your bank statement, compare the bank statement and your check register to be sure they agree. You reconcile the statement to make sure it agrees with your check register. You may find some outstanding deposits or outstanding checks that did not post or did not clear. These appear on your register but did not reach the bank in time to list them on your statement. When comparing the two, and then they have a formula for you. And the formula that they have for you today, it says the adjusted balance is going to be equal to your statement balance minus any outstanding checks. Now, just so that you guys are aware of it, outstanding checks does not mean that they're so wonderful that they're outstanding, right? Like you guys did on your homework yesterday, it was outstanding. That's not what they're referring to. When they're referring to outstanding checks, they mean that it just has not been posted yet. So like, let's say the statement was issued yesterday and I wrote a check yesterday. It's not going to be on the statement. It'll be on the next month's one. Okay? So just so that you're aware of it, that's what they're referring to as outstanding checks, payments, or debits. But then you're also going to add in any outstanding deposits. And again, that does not mean that it's so awesome. Okay? That means that it just has not been added into your bank statement yet. That's what it means by outstanding. Not as in you guys are so great. Okay? That's what it means. So, number one has on there your statement balance is $374.47. You had outstanding checks of $238.98, but you had an outstanding balance of $140. So, to figure out your adjusted balance, you take the $374.47, you minus the $238.98, and you add to it the $140. Bless you. What do I get? How much money is there? $275.49. Is that what you got, Skylar? Mm-hmm. Huh. Should say it louder next time. Number two. The statement balance was $772.33. You had outstanding checks of $283.75, and you had an outstanding deposit of $247. No. Holy cow. $427.75. So again, you take the $772.33, you subtract out the $283.75, and you add to it the $427.75, and how much money should be in my account? $916.33 is what one person says. Did anybody else get that? Yeah. All right, then we must be okay. Now, on 1 and 2, they gave you all the numbers the way it was. Now 3, they're going to give it to you in Word format. You know, both of those questions, for instance, we could have made it up like Brandon had on his statement and made words behind it if we wanted to. That's what number 3 is doing. So again, we need to be careful about how we read things because it will make a difference. On number 3, it says Asuko Naito's check register balance is $8,754.33. He compares the statement with his check register. Is that important? The fact that he's comparing it is important, but as far as the numbers-wise go, there's nothing there for numbers. He notes the bank paid him $2.86 in interest and charged him $1.20 for bill payment fees. He finds these outstanding checks and deposits. And then on the next page, here's the part that I don't like about the book. They left it to the next page for you. Now, you need to fill it in. Now, let me remind you, because this happened the other day, and I made the comment to a couple people in here that I'm going to minus 12 right away if you don't do it. On number 3, it's got an A, B, C, D, E, F. So you got to list all of them. You can't just list one. That's that if you don't list them all, you're getting stuff wrong. So on that part that's got the green, with the green table at the top there, you know, this one up here. Okay, okay, that's what we're going to fill in right there. Okay, and we're going to fill it in based on what the numbers they gave us. So I started at the top with the check register balance of $8,754.33. Part A said, were there any service charges or fees? And how much was it? So if I look at it, it says the bank paid him $2.86 in interest and charged him $1.20 for bill payment fees. So how much goes in Part A? How much did they charge him for that fee? Hold on, let me read it again. The bank paid him $2.86 in interest and charged him $1.20 in bill payment fees. So $1.20 goes in Part A, right? Part B says the words interest. How much did they pay him in interest? Good. Now, when you're figuring this out, a fee, is that an adding or subtracting? Subtracting. Good, Colin. And what's an interest? Adding. Good. So what I want you to do for Part C is take this $8,754.33 minus $1.20 and add to it $2.86. What do I get? $8,755 point what? Very good. Thank you. Then on the other side it says statement balance. And this is where I wrote too big. But I've got $11,158.49 is what it says at the top of the column. It says outstanding checks, payments, or debits, and it says check number $751.75, $2,455.89, and then for Part D it says what is the total outstanding checks, payments, or debits. So what does it want you to do with those two numbers I just wrote on there? Huh? No, not quite for this one. Because it says what's the total. Yeah. It wants you for Part D to add these two numbers together. The $7.51 and 75 cents and the $24.55 and 89 cents. How much money is that? $3,207.64, right, Jordan? Good job. Then for part E, over there it says deposits of $805 and 14 cents. Was there more than one deposit or just the one? Just the one. So if it had more than one, what would we have done at this time? If it had more than one deposit, what would we have done to the deposits? We would have added them together if it would have more than one. But it only has one. So what's the total for the deposits? $805 and 14 cents. Now part F. Here's what you have to do. For the adjusted balance, you take the statement balance, which was the $11,158.49. You minus out any outstanding checks, so that would be the $32.07 and 64 cents, and you add to it any deposits of $805.14. So I take this number minus this number plus the last number, and what do I get in the end? So you got 87, 55, and 99 cents. Is that what you're trying to tell me? Now, can I ask you something? Is that a coincidence that those two numbers were the same?
No, they're supposed to be.
Cody said no, they're supposed to be. Is the adjusted balance supposed to be what you have on your register? Yeah. That's how you reconcile it. Those two numbers should have been the same. If they're not, either you screwed up or the bank screwed up. And that's where you go back and you look at your statement, and that's where you go back and double check to verify that they actually took the right amount of money out of your account when you wrote a check. That's why it's important when you write a check that you write it correctly, because if you don't, things could be misdone. We've noticed that on ours, where I've noticed that a couple times where it was like, hey, they did this, or we did it. Sometimes we subtracted two of the same check. So that was our fault. But we've noticed the banks sometimes have done it where it wasn't very much money, but it was where, hey, they subtracted more than what the check was for. And we had to call them and fill out a form. But the money got put back in our account. That's why you do it. Now, when I was your age and in college, did I do that? No. I wasn't very smart with my money. Okay? Now that and I attribute it all to my wife, because she's the one who does it all right now. But she looks at it daily and goes through and double checks everything to make sure everything's done. Okay? Those two numbers should have been the same. If they weren't, then we have an issue. So, on numbers 4 through 7, here's what they want you to do. It says the check register balance, the interest, and the service charge fees, and for part A it says new balance. So here's what you do for number 4. You take 147 and 60 cents, you add to it any interest, and you subtract out any service charges or fees. That gives you part A. Does that make sense? So what is 147 and 60 cents minus $4.70? 142.90. Part B, it says my statement balance is $388 and 29 cents. I have outstanding checks, so that's a minus of $345 and 39 cents, and an outstanding deposit, which means a plus of 100. What number do I get for B? Do you get the same number? Yeah. Now, can I also make this comment to you? It has an A and a B. If you just tell me the number is 142.90, I'm going to automatically write B slash, because you just told me what A was. You didn't tell me what B was. They are supposed to be the same, but this is you verifying that they're the same. Does that make sense? Okay. That's how you do 4 through 7. Then when you get down to 8, and this is the last question, and if you look at 8, it starts on page 180 and finishes all of page 181. That whole thing is that one problem. So I'm going to walk you through it again, okay? It says on there, David Casador received his bank statement and canceled checks for the period ending November 20th. He compared the check register, which is the bottom chart. That's his check register at the bottom, page 180. With the canceled checks and deposits listed on the statement from, and that's the top of page 181. That's his statement that comes from the bank. So the check register is what is in your checkbook. That's where that little, for those of you who have a checking account, it's that folded over pieces of paper that you are all stapled together that you write all your checks and your withdrawals on and deposits. The statement comes once a month from the bank. And then it says, then placed a check mark next to the items processed. You notice where the check marks are in the bottom of in that bottom chart? You see where he's got the check marks at? You guys are so lively today. Okay, right down there. That check mark column is for you to verify that the bank actually has taken that money out or put that money in. It looks like to me there's 2 of them that were not accounted for yet. That just means that they weren't processed yet. And looking at when they happened on the 20th. More than likely the bank already ran your statement, and then those got processed after it. Okay? Then he reconciles the bank statement, and that's usually on the back of your bank statement. They'll have a page where you can do this, where you can reconcile. It's usually in a real light print, but you can do that on the back of your statement. So for Part A, it says, what total amount does he have in outstanding checks? So look at the checks. How many checks were outstanding? 1 check for totaling how much? $44.89. Part B says, what's his total does he have in outstanding deposits? How many deposits were outstanding? 1. How much was it? Okay. Then for Part C, what's his adjusted balance? So if you look over on figure 3.13, no, holy cow, numbers are all goofy. 4.13, the bottom chart, okay? This one right here. That's where we're putting all these things into. Okay, so it gives us all that information. All right? So Part A and Part B. Part C, the adjusted balance, and I didn't leave myself enough room, but it said the statement balance was $648.35. Bless you. So times 2. So I take $648.35, I subtract $44.89, and I add to it $181 or $191.37. How much money do I get? $794.83. Thanks, Cody. Then for Part D, it says, what's the new check register balance? And if you look at that chart that we were just referring to, it said, bless you, the check register balance was $801.33. He had service charges totaling $650, and the interest for this month was 0. So what's $801.33 minus $6.50? Colin, what'd you get? $794 and what? And 83. Now what did we just say a few minutes ago? Weren't they supposed to be the same? Now for Part E, which is not in that chart, it said, do the register and adjusted balances agree? Are they the same number? Yeah. So Part E, yes, they are. Awesome. Michaeli, what happens if they're not? Either you messed up or the bank messed up. You need to verify where it went wrong. Okay? So if that happens when you're reconciling your bank statement, if it does match, awesome. If it doesn't match, somebody screwed up. Whether it was you or whether it was the bank, you need to figure that out. Okay? Now, I did 1 through 4 and number 8 with you. There's only 8 questions total. So it started on page 179 to 181, and it's 1 through 8. Pardon me.